that this is a minimum in a retail setting, at least 10,000. More realistically, 15, maybe 30,000.
Wow.
Thanks for coming in, Sean.
Rick Harrison has made some legendary deals on Pawn Stars, but not every buy is a win. Sometimes an item looks like gold until it turns into a total disaster. From overpriced junk to fakes that fooled even the experts, these are the purchases Rick regretted the moment the deal was done. Without wasting any more time, let's dive right into it, shall we? This man walks into the pawn shop and he brings in something very interesting. He pulls out a pistol from a box and tells Rick and Corey that it is a special Remington 6-shot revolver that was given to his stepfather's grandfather, who was a general in the Honduran army. Believe me when I say that the sight of the pistol was nothing short of spectacular.
Was a general in the Honduran army.
How come we have any cool stuff like this in our family?
Our family's not that cool.
I came into the pawn shop today to see if I could sell my late...
Looks like Rick might be interested in this pistol if it happens to be associated with Teddy Roosevelt. The customer who brought in the gun has no idea what it's worth, and he is hoping that Rick could give him a good deal since the pistol is an antique gun. The customer says that the gun is number 4 of the series, and his stepfather's grandfather received number 3 and number 4. His stepfather's grandfather must have been a badass when he was in the military.
Like that?
Not really any paperwork on it. But inside here on the arm, there's a 4.
It's safe to say that Rick has found himself at a crossroads. Right from the very beginning, Rick has always been a lover of guns. Here's where things make it look a little tricky. Rick has never handled a weapon that did not have a serial number on it. This particular gun that the customer brought into the pawn shop has no serial number on it, and it makes Rick a little skeptical. What's keeping Rick hooked is the story behind the gun.
You have no paperwork and there's no serial number on it. It's also broken. You have definite spring problems back here. The hammer doesn't go back when you pull the trigger.
I'm really hoping that this gun is not going to be a fake, and the customer's story actually checks out. Rick decides to take a proper look at the gun, and he finds that the gun has a few loopholes. The gun has no paperwork, so there's no way to make sure it's legit. Aside from that, the gun is broken. The gun has a spring problem that prevents the hammer from going back when you pull the trigger. Rick tells the customer that he needs to bring in his expert to take a look at the gun.
It's broken. And this gentleman right here says it's got a lot of history to it, but no provenance, no nothing like that.
Okay, my name is Sean and I own
That's a good first sign right there. Rick's expert makes his way to the pawn shop. He lifts the gun, and he is very impressed by what he sees. Rick tells the expert that his worry comes from the fact that the gun does not have a serial number. The expert then tells Rick that the gun is not a fake and it's indeed an original Remington 6-shot revolver. The expert also says that they stopped the production of this type of pistol in 1889.
But right now it's just hearsay, the story.
That's correct, yeah.
If you don't have anything ironclad to support your statement, you have to check the item on.
That's the right reaction to give. Wow, I'm pretty sure this customer would never have thought that the gun would be worth that amount of money. The expert tells the customer that his story sounds legit, but without any documents to back up the story, it's almost impossible to verify that it's the truth. Aside from the spring issue, the gun seems to be in good shape. The expert then goes on to place the value of the gun between $10,000 and $30,000. That's some serious money right there.
What are you looking to get out of it?
Wow. I'd like to get 10,000.
I can't do 10. I'll give you $8,000 cash.
Today is definitely Christmas for this customer. He made way more than he was looking to get from the sale of the Remington 6-shot revolver. After the expert gave his opinion and price about the gun, Rick asked the customer how much he wanted for the pistol. Without blinking an eye, he said $10,000. Rick told him that he couldn't go that high since he was going to fix the spring of the pistol. Rick offered $9,500, and they shook hands and made a deal.
Antique buttons. It's got a date, 1789. Got the eagle.
More like a turkey or a chicken.
It seems to me like we have another customer who has no idea about the value of the item that they have brought in to sell. This guy is in the pawn shop today to sell what he refers to as antique buttons. One of the buttons has a date that says 1789, so you definitely know they are pretty old buttons. The customer who brought in the buttons has no idea how much they are worth, but hopes that he can make some good money from their sale.
Passed away, and he left me a big coin collection. I was going through it, and I noticed they're obvious not coins.
You know anything about these?
Ha ha ha. There's no argument with that. Anything that dates back to or relates to George Washington is definitely going to be worth some money. Rick inspects the buttons one by one, and he finds out that one of the buttons has an inscription that reads, "Long live the President." Rick is intrigued by how old the buttons are, but he has no idea why George Washington is inscribed on them. You can bet he is about to find out though.
1 year. So what do you want to do? You want to pawn them or sell them?
I'd like to sell them.
Okay. Problem is, I just don't know things. I mean, all I know is you made...
Who knows? Maybe Rick is right. These buttons could have been made for George Washington himself. The only way he can know for sure is if he brings in his expert to check it out. Rick asks the customer what he wants to do with the antique buttons, and the customer says that he wants to sell them. Rick says that before he asks him to name a price, he wants his expert to come take a look so they both have an idea of what they are actually dealing with.
Well, you have an interesting collection here.
Thank you.
These are buttons, large size button here.
Oh wow, I'm pretty sure Rick was not expecting that these antique buttons would be of so much significant value. I mean, his face literally says it all. He is shocked and impressed at the same time. The expert comes in, and the first thing he says is that the customer has a very interesting collection of buttons. He then says that the buttons were a prized jewel for people back in the day because they were celebrating George Washington since he was the most loved man in the United States during that period.
George Washington. It appears that this may have been buried, covered. You could see there's a lot of greenish patina on here and a lot of...
Well, that's honestly good to hear. These buttons do have significant value, and that's a good sign. The expert talks about the buttons one by one. He picks up the first one, and he says that the button might have been buried and dug up due to how old and rusted it looks. The second button has a colonial motif of the linked states, while the last button, which seems to be quite exceptional, refers to the period when George Washington was made the President of the United States.
How much do you think these things are worth?
Well, the very worst quality is this one here. I would estimate that this is actually worth about $2,000 to $3,000, this particular piece. It's that rare and that...
Ow! This customer is about to cash in on a lot of money right now. The expert rounds up his conversation about the antique buttons and goes straight to talking about the price. He picks up the first button and he says that the value of that button is between $2,000 and $3,000. He then picks up the second button and he values that at exactly $3,000. The lash button, which is the most unique of all of them, is valued between $6,000 and $8,000. Let's see how much Rick is willing to offer.
How much are you gonna give me for them?
$3
grand.
Know what he said they were worth. That was auction prices from a few years ago, and I gotta say, you know what?
And that's why Rick is the best in the game. The expert was done valuing the antique buttons, and Rick wasted no time in telling the customer how much he wanted to buy the buttons for. He told the customer that he wanted to buy all the buttons for $3,000, and the face on the customer said it all. He was shocked that Rick offered him that price. The customer told Rick that he wanted $8,000, but Rick is not going to give him that price.
Very limited market. $3,000, you want it? Deal?
All right, deal.
Let's go write the paperwork. I couldn't be happier. At worst, I'm gonna...
I guess that concludes that deal. For a moment there, I thought that the customer was not going to take the deal. Rick made it clear to the customer that he was not going to go higher than $3,000. Knowing that the customer did not have anywhere else to go to sell the antique buttons, Rick had all the cards. The customer gave it some thought, and in the end, he agreed to sell them for $3,000. Now let's see what's next.
You want to take a look at my Abraham Lincoln etching here?
That's not an etching, that's a print.
Okay, my Abraham Lincoln print.
Okay.
I thought Abe was bald.
Why would you think that Abe Lincoln was bald?
Looks like everyone coming into the pawn shop today just wants to make some money out of items that they have had in their houses for a long time. This customer makes his way to the pawn shop. He meets up with Rick and Chum and shows them an Abraham Lincoln print that he was looking to sell. He has no idea how much it's worth, but hopes that he can make some good money from a deal with Rick. Well, let's see how that goes.
You got something really interesting here. In 1865, they still used lamp black, iron filings. It was a weird combination for ink, okay? After 60, 70, 80 years,
that might be a problem, and there's a chance that this Abraham Lincoln print might be a fake. Rick says that in 1865, they used lamp black and iron filings as ink. After about 60 to 70 years, those iron filings began to rust, and that's why when you look at old documents from way back in the day, all their letters are no longer black. Here's the thing though, The signature on this Abraham Lincoln print is shining black, and that makes Rick wonder if this print is a fake.
He could forge just about anything.
Joseph Cosey was one of the most famous forgers in American history. Cosey faked everyone, from Benjamin Franklin.
And once again, we have another problem. After noticing that the signature was shunning back, Rick went on to ask the customer if he knew anyone that went by the name Joseph Cosey. The customer told Rick he had no idea who that was, and Rick told him that Joseph Cosey was a big-time forger back in the day. Joseph Cosey forged so many documents and signatures, and what's crazy is that the forgeries were so good that it's hard to tell the original from the fake. The problem now is that Rick thinks this Abraham Lincoln print is one of Joseph Cosey's forgeries.
Worth anything?
Believe it or not, the forgeries by Cosey are worth a little bit of money
Really?
because it was by a famous forger. But what you have here,
It must really suck to be in this customer's shoes right now. He came in hoping to make some money, but that is not going to happen. Rick was able to tell that this particular Abraham Lincoln print was a forgery done by Joseph Cosey. What makes this particular print bad is that it's a copy of a fake. If it were to have been the actual fake print that was done by Joseph Cosey, it would have been worth some money since it was done by a famous forger. Sadly, that's not the case.
I have a clock here that my grandfather from Richard Nixon.
It's pretty cool. Does it run?
Idea.
At least he is being honest about the fact that he does not like Richard Nixon. But let's be honest, that looks like a really cool clock. This dude is in the pawn shop today to sell a Richard Nixon clock that he claims was given to him by his grandfather. The customer has had the clock for a while now, and he does not use it or have any need for it. Now he wants to see how much he can make from its sale.
It was the most accurate watch you could get that was electric before they had quartz movements. This actually had tuning forks inside of it. Oh, Accutron. See the tuning fork?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that this customer's grandfather was the former foreign minister of Israel? That's mind-blowing for real. Now, Rick tells the customer that he is definitely interested in the clock, but he does not want to make the customer an offer without making sure that the clock actually works. Rick is about to put some batteries in the clock to see if it's going to come on. If that happens, then they can proceed to talk about the price.
The bearer of bad news. Check that out.
Ooh. You've ever heard of batteries corroding?
No.
Contacts are eaten away and everything else. That is destroyed inside them.
Today is just not this customer's lucky day at all. It seems like the universe does not want him to cash in on this Richard Nixon clock. Rick wanted to test the clock and see if it worked. He got some batteries, but as he tried to fix them into the hole, he noticed that all the contacts and parts that would make the clock run had been eaten away due to battery corrosion. Rick says that the clock will never run again, but it's still worth some money, just not as much as it was initially going to be.
Okay, I would give you $1,000 if it was working correctly.
I'll take 1,200.
Semi-famous grandfather, and it's broken.
At least he did not walk out of the pawn shop with empty pockets. He got a pretty good deal if you ask me. Seeing that the Richard Nixon clock was never going to work, they got down to the price conversation. Rick offered the customer $500 for the clock, and the customer said that was too little for him. They danced around the figures for a bit, and Rick eventually took the price to $850. They shook hands on the price, and a deal was made.
To sell a picture of Mary and Abraham Lincoln from, I believe, 1863.
Abe only took photos by himself.
Well, he's right about that.
Mary and Abraham Lincoln in the same photo? That's gotta be worth some money. If you don't know, seeing them together in one picture is a very rare occurrence. Now this man walks into the pawn shop and he meets up with Rick and Chum. He shows them a photo of Abraham Lincoln and Mary and tells them that he wants to sell it to them. The dude is a collector of 19th century photos, and this photo is part of a collection of 11 photographs that were unidentified.
Types, it took like 30 minutes to develop, and they had to straight with some...
It was the way photographs were done. The film wasn't as good as it is today, obviously, like that. So it took a long time to expose it. And so they would have hooks on the wall.
Ha ha! Chum should really start taking history lessons before he gives a customer a wrong story. Chum was of the impression that Mary and Abraham Lincoln never got married because Mary liked to spend so much. Rick then corrects Chum and tells him that Abraham Lincoln did not have a lot of money at the time, and that's why they didn't get married. The moment Abraham Lincoln's law firm took off, he made a lot of money, and they got married.
So where'd you get this?
I bought it from a collector who sold me a collection of 11 photographs that were unidentified, and I mistakenly was able to identify every single one of them.
That's the best option at this point. You don't hear $1 million and not want an expert to come check out the merchandise. Rick asked the dude how much he wanted for the photo of Abraham Lincoln and Mary, and the dude said he wanted $1 million for it. His reason for asking for such a high price is because he believes the picture is rare and 1 in a million. The expert is on his way, and I think we'd leave him to be the judge of that.
Maureen, how's it going?
Good.
So here we go.
Gorgeous. Abraham Lincoln and Mary Toddling.
I have my doubts.
Okay. Do you mind if I take a look at it?
Absolutely.
Well, that does not look like a good sign at all. The expert makes her way to the pawn shop, and she does not deny the fact that the photo is quite rare and unique. She starts to dine off the picture, and she sees some red flags. She brings out pictures of Abraham Lincoln and compares them with the photo that the dude brought in, and there are a number of differences that make her question the photo's authenticity.
Abraham's face, he had a nose that was crooked, and he definitely has one.
I know why you think this is Abraham Lincoln. It's sort of gaunt shape to his head.
This feels like a Mexican standoff. This is a battle between experts in almost the same line of work. Now Rick's expert tells the dude that she does not feel like there is a match between the pictures she has and the photo that the dude brought in. The dude explains to the expert that he also does research on things like this, and he believes that Abraham Lincoln's face can't be judged based on one picture. At this point, Rick and Chum are confused because they don't know who's saying the right thing.
It's your career. You have a right to discredit yourself.
But I've been doing this for a really long time.
Okay.
A lot of people come to me saying,
Whew, I honestly thought that was going to turn into a huge fight. This customer was just not ready to agree with the expert. The customer expert concluded that the photo of Abraham Lincoln and Mary were a fake, but the dude who was looking to sell the photo told her that she was making a big mistake. For confirmation's sake, Rick asked the expert if she was sure that it was a fake, and she told Rick that it was. I think we already know whose side Rick is gonna take.
Okay, so, all right, I appreciate it.
Like I said, free to disagree.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Take care.
You can tell that he is not happy with the way things ended. He was really looking to make $1 million from the sale of the photo of Abraham Lincoln and Mary. Sadly, Rick was not going to pick his side over the expert's decision. Well, it clearly sucks to be this guy right now. Who knows, maybe he could get a good deal somewhere else. In the end, there was no deal to be made. Now, let's see what the next item is going to be.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Nice to meet you.
This is the Chad machine.
This is the Votomatic punch card machine from the 2000 election.
That is definitely not something you get to see every day now, is it? Rick is in Florida to help one of his friends get her pawn shop the kick it needs. She does not get a lot of customers at her pawn shop, and Rick is trying to see what she can get that would make customers come into her pawn shop. He is about to check out a 2000 president voting booth. Well, let's see if Rick can make a good deal of this voting booth.
In 2000, when they had the election, people realized that occasionally when you punch out the Chad or a little piece of pop out of the ballot, when it got voted, it could have got screwed.
Seems like Rick might have found the right item that's going to get his friend the audience that she needs to get her pawn shop up and running with customers. Rick checks out the 2000 president voting booth, and it seems to be in very good condition. My guess is that he is about to begin the price conversation with the owner of the voting booth. Hopefully, the owner of the voting booth does not scare Rick away.
Pull out every election cycle, throw it online for sale, and you always put like some crazy reserve so it doesn't sell, but you always end up getting a bunch of free press out of it. People will come into your shop just because it's there, like my Super Bowl rings and stuff like that.
That's surprising. Rick is backing out of the price conversation. He is allowing his friend to negotiate with the guy who wants to sell the 2000 president voting booth. I guess that makes sense since she's going to be using it in her own pawn shop. The guy wants $2,000 for the voting booth, but Rick's friend tells the guy that the best she can do for him is $1,000. Let's see where the deal ends.
A buyer for it, and even if I can't find a buyer for it, that is money I've got invested. $1,000. I can't go any more than that.
Okay.
All right.